Are we sure? Yes, we are sure. We're live. It's official, Ashley.
Yay!
Here we are streaming on Marketing SOS Group, and if technology supports us, via YouTube onto kate-carney.co.uk. So yay! Hi! For the world who don't know, which you should, this is Ashley Costello, and I'm Kate Carney, by the way. Hi, I think you kind of know that being on this feed. So Ashley and I have just been having a chat before I press go live. We're getting into quite a lovely, juicy, detailed chat, weren't we?
We were.
About the role of resilience, and my personal experience this morning and how I came onto this live is rescuing me from my children, which are currently in the room next door. So we are going to have, by the way, if you are on and you're watching, please do say hi. You can't do that on YouTube at the moment, but you can do it if you're in the Marketing SOS group. So we've got a little bit of time with Ashley to learn about Ashley and her business and to teach me, enlighten me, which I always get something super useful from speaking with Ashley and spending time with Ashley, about resilience for myself, for my children, that kind of, somebody who you meet and you think every time you speak to them, it makes you reflect and it makes you think bigger. Well, that's you, Ashley. You are that person for me, certainly in this space. So I'm going to let you introduce yourself, Ashley. Tell us a bit about who you are, the Resilient Kid, and what this mission is that you are on.
Oh, thank you for those lovely words, Miss Carney there. So, yep, as Kate says, I'm Ashley Costello, and I run a Facebook group, but it's kind of a bit of a project for me, and it's a passion called the Resilient Kid. And the reason I run it, well, two things. One, I kind of picked that name because I'm from Manchester, if most of you don't know, and think of Gallagher Brothers. We always go our kid this, our kid that when we're talking about family and friends. And so I thought it was really important to kind of recognize that, as in, we all have that kid inside of us. So that was one of the reasons why I picked the name. But the project kind of came out of a TEDx talk that I did last year. So I've been a psychotherapist for over 20 years. And then I was asked to do this TEDx talk. And when you've got, kind of 10 minutes to deliver a big idea, what do you want to do? That's quite hard to think about. What are you passionate about? And for me, it was about education. I've worked in massive schools as their therapist. I've done therapy with children and adolescents for years and years and years. And for me, the school is failing. The school system that we have now is failing our kids and failing us as parents. And so I thought, right, how can I do this? Like, how do I want to change this education system? So I stood up there last year and was really passionate, really wanted to talk about, let's not disregard how technology have really ramped up on the last few years. I don't know about you, Kate, but for me, computers were just really coming in. We had, like, in the primary school, we had one computer that was wheeled around on a trolley. Remember the old BBC? Exactly. And our kids don't know any different. They've got, we've got a mobile phone that's like a mini computer you can carry around. And yeah, exactly. And so let's not disregard that. Why are we sitting and making the kids learn by rote stuff like the Battle of Hastings? If I say that to you, you tell me the year, Kate.
No, I really want to say 1066.
Awesome. Excellent. Didn't fail me. You see, rote, yes. It's fantastic.
That amount of responsibility on my for anyone, never test me on general knowledge.
Yeah. But that's the thing is, for me, it's like, yes, rote learning, it works. God, it's boring. But, all these years later, me and Kate can give out the date 1066. But you can get that.
Yeah.
You can get it on your phone within seconds. Kids can get that kind of. So for me, knowledge like that has become disposable. So what I want to teach kids is resilience, is how to fail. That bounce back ability that's going to not just help them with falling out with their friends or going to help them with a maths problem, but it's going to help them for the rest of their life when they go for jobs. The biggest thing now, and there's been a study done, is that those students that are coming out of universities, they're looking at the kind of life experience to see what kids have gone through, see what these students have gone through, to see if they can last the course. Because academically, they can do it. You know, the tests prove academically they can do it. But a lot of kids are not lasting 3 or 4 year courses now because they haven't got the resilience when life throws a challenge at them to continue with their studies. And so it's really important that we start this young. So that's a bit of a long-winded way of saying like why I think it's so important that resilience, you know, our kids learn resilience as quick as they can.
And I think there's probably not going to be a person in the country that would on this surface level in terms of conversation disagree with you. I think most people will go, that's really important, and the relatable terms around bounce back ability and learning to fail. I think what you're acknowledging is the flaws within the system, and you used really strong language. You said the schools are failing us, and over the past 20 years, you have probably seen every sort of scenario that act with those children and the families that you can actually boil down to the fundamentals associated with resilience. And actually, if they'd put building blocks and foundations and those sorts of terminology, those sorts of things in earlier, that actually would give them a platform from which they can be more successful for whatever successes look like, a better ability to cope in situations.
And can springboard from that, Kate. Once they've learned that kind of thing, you know, there's no stopping them. And I'm a trained teacher as well. This isn't in any way, shape or form. This is not the system's failing the teachers as well. It's not the teachers failing. They're definitely not. You know, they're working their butts off, and we've not seen this any harder than that's happening right now. You know, they are working and adapting and, you know, changing the way they teach. It's not perfect by any stretch, but the teachers are doing an amazing job to pivot. You know, we talk in business, don't we, all the time about pivoting for the new scenarios. The teachers have had to do that with very, very little notice. And so they're doing amazing. And there's, I mean, you know, in our Facebook group, we have teachers and we have parents, and they're both telling me the same kind of thing. So yeah, for sure, it's the system. It's the way that we've set out. I mean, I don't think there's going to be a bigger opportunity for us to change the system right now.
I think your point about and I completely agree. I was actually talking to my husband about this yesterday, about using this time as an opportunity, looking at this as an opportunity to say, what can we start from scratch? What do we really need to change? And I wonder to what extent parents are looking at their children, and some parents are considering homeschooling, looking at their social structures. They're seeing their children. I'm seeing my children all the time. Yeah, there's no break, and you are seeing the differences, the nuances in their personalities. I've got 2 girls, right? So I'm seeing how they are different, and I wonder to what extent both parents and those that run the education system are looking at this and going, right, what can we do differently? I also think when you said the point about the trauma or the drama that you've been through, and that forming who you are and your ability to cope with situations has and be resilient. Maybe if you don't know that as resilience, you don't know that you're looking back and going, actually, I did cope with that, and I did thrive through that situation, or at least survive through that situation. And that's something that in business, I talk about looking back over your business shoulder and being very conscious and aware of what's happened to you previously, and actually looking at, do you know what, you did get through that, and thinking about the maybe coping mechanisms that you put in place at that point in time, and being conscious of what's happened, because we move forward based on understanding what's happened previously. So you've got this Resilient Kid Facebook group, which has grown. Boom! We've gone like this. We're going like, group. And it's like coronavirus came along and went, Ashley, and this is in terms of a gift from a Facebook group of growth commercially, it went, have this gift. People need
it totally did. It went wild. Just before we move on to that, just to address something that you've said then, because I think that's really important about looking over your shoulder and seeing how well you did. And I'll come on to kind of homeschooling and how that scenario can help parents in a second. But the other thing is, Kate, and you think about it, you know, anybody who knows you, who's in your SOS group will know that this last week you've spent learning technology. So we're all on StreamYard right now. Okay. For me, that is building resilience, because what you've done is you've seen a gap in your knowledge, and you've studied it, and yay, it's working, we're on live, you know, today. So amazing. So for me, there is absolutely no reason why we can't be teaching our kids in preparation. Don't wait for life's challenges to throw at you. You know, any parent out there would be saying they don't want you know, their child to learn resilience because they've had a grandparent die, or they've had a sickness in the family and they've had to deal with that and get over it. Yes, of course, that can build resilience if it's handled in the right way, but we can learn a lot of these skills ahead of those challenges. And so when a challenges come and hits us in the face, as it does, as life throws at us, you know, we're already prepared. We're not going to be squashed. You know, it's not going to hit us in the face and it's going to knock us over. We can prepare our kids. So just like you have done for your business, it's really important that we recognize resilience can be built in preparation as well.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really good point, and something that I have a friend who can't talk about death.
Yeah.
She can't. And I said to her, it will happen. You know, maybe in the few privileged people where a relative or family member or close friend hasn't passed away, but it will. I remember when my nan passing away, I talked to the girls about it. We talked very openly about the fact she was poorly and the risks, and in a child, hopefully at the time, in a child-friendly way. And my friend said to me, she gets upset at the thought of it, and I said, for the care of your children, you cannot avoid the subject or cry or because they're not going to be able to cope with it, because it is inevitable as one subject matter. So that point about preparing them so that we're not faced with a crisis, that we don't have any emotional crutches or tools to support us, or behavioral traits, is really, really important. You're right.
And I think pets are a really good way in to talking about death. You know, even if it's only a goldfish, you know, they don't last that long.
Have a few of this.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, I completely empathize with your friend. My mum didn't go to funerals, like just didn't go to funerals. The only funeral she ever went to was a mum and dad's, and we didn't talk about death and things like that. And then obviously I go into, you know, psychotherapy, and I've got no choice but to talk about it. I've been with my hubby quite a long time. We met at school, and he's from an Irish family, a very traditional Irish family. So I went over to his grandma's funeral, and death is very different over there. It's celebrated. You do not leave, you know, the body is at home. You do not leave them for 72 hours, but there is singing, there is drinking, there's cups of tea, there's, you know, 5-year-olds trying to feed the body a biscuit, and it's laughing and it's celebrating that life. And it's a shock for us, you know, it was a shock for me, and it was definitely the best thing that I ever did, because now we very much embrace it, and you know, because what you're doing is, and I think that laid me in really good stead. I lost my mum last year, and we really prepared the kids, you know, very much about what, you know, we've only got a limited time. Don't wait until they're dead, you know. So we had that time with my mum. Look, fortunately, you know, we had some preparation time, and the kids were amazing. And you know what? So was I. You know, I'm not saying you don't have the days where you think, oh, where's my mum? I need my mum today. We all have those days. But, you know, the fact that we had those chats a lot, and prepared ourselves, and definitely for the funeral. I'm a big one for kids going to funerals, but only if, you know, the adults can handle it, because it is the adults that need to handle it. Kids are so much better than us, so much better.
So should I talk about the banana? I don't know, or the Skittles? Oh, she's coughing. Right, well, we haven't told you all, is Ashley has.
Yes, we haven't told you.
And I have really bad hate her, so we're between us. Medical, no COVID, but between us, medical symptoms.
I will put myself on mute if I'm coughing, but I was like, I knew that's what you were going to say, and that's why I started laughing and coughing at the same time. Yeah, I've got whooping cough. Who knew adults could get whooping cough? It's not contagious anymore, just annoying. Yeah, so no, not the banana just yet.
No.
One of the things I wanted to go back to was about when you were talking about your business and things like that is, and preparing and being resilient and looking over the shoulder and stuff. One of the things that I get up in my group a lot is struggles with homework. I don't know about you, Kate, but the there isn't across the board, the schools I'm talking to and teachers, there isn't one fits all. So I know that some schools release work on a Monday and the kids have got to work through it. I know some schools are having live lessons, but they are very few and far between.
Definitely.
Somewhere they get, the kids, particularly teens, are getting notification about when a lesson's going live or notification that this has got to be done, causes huge amount of anxiety, absolutely huge amount of anxiety. You've got some kids who are doing nothing and some kids who are going above and beyond because of the pressure that they're putting themselves under or the pressure that, they're feeling from school or parents or things like that. But as a parent, that's really hard to handle, to get that balance right. And there's a few things that I thought, if my group are really struggling with that, then I think your guys will be struggling with that as well.
Including me. I think the acknowledgement there, Ashley, one of the things you've acknowledged is from a school system perspective, taking it back to kind of the beginning of the conversation, is there is differences across schools. There is inconsistencies within the school, and actually, as a parent, you have to. I was these presentations for me. I have to default to, okay, let's just think about what are the really important things here. What are the from a healthy, balanced, everything about healthy balance in the education system, in their well-being, in their mental health, and have that very elevated rise above. Like what we talk about in business, like why are you actually here? What is the purpose of this? Let's not get caught up in the fact she gets her D's and her P's and her B's the wrong way around. Like, let's not get that fact. Let's say, do you know what? Occasionally she's happy to read out the ingredients to a baker cake. She'll bake a cake. They'll bake a cake on their own, which has been doing recently. It tastes disgusting, but they're doing it anyway. And let's just rise above it. And so, but actually, I imagine it's very difficult for a lot of people. And it's difficult for me a lot of the time because you're looking at people saying, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing nothing, I'm in the garden, and you get, like you say, notifications or messages from the school system saying, your new code, and you're like, what was I supposed to be logging into?
Yeah, what's that code for? Yeah.
This is like therapy, Ashley, basically. So yeah, the inconsistencies within the school, within the system, the different approaches, and the pressure you put on yourself, and what the kids are feeling, is pretty all-consuming.
Oh, it is, because we're not just talking about, right, if it was as easy as going, here's some work, because we get homework most weeks, here's your work, get it done and dusted. We're also talking about the pressures of parents who might have to work from home or who've been furloughed or who have lost their job, keeping a house running, keeping kids occupied no matter their age, trying to not have them on screens all day because that's the only time you get a bit of like headspace. If the weather's okay, then fab. If you've got a garden, they can get out in the garden for a little while. But we haven't, there's the anxiety that's just building up around all of that. And it's really funny because I've had conversations with kids lately who actually hear this word coronavirus all the time, but don't actually know what it is because they're hearing snippets on the news. But, sometimes parents are trying to shield the kids from it. But actually, that is a bit like death. If you don't talk about it, it's built up in such a way that I know. For instance, when I talk to death about death to my little clients, I have to make parents say, don't say they've just gone to sleep, because they'll think they're coming back. Things like that. And it's the same with the coronavirus. That we get these conversations. So there's all this anxiety in the household, as well as, if you and your partner work from home and you're trying to tag team the kids, it's hideous. It's absolutely hideous. So there's kind of that too, that's already in the mix before we then throw in homework, which I don't know about you guys, but homework is already like one of those, what I call, a torchlit subject, because homework's hideous anyway, because but I think there's a few things that I'd say. One, we're not teachers. We are not. We are not that child's teacher, and neither should we be. Children want to identify with us all the time. We're their safe person, we're the most important person for them, and they want to identify. So often when they're going, I can't do it, or I don't need your help, things like that, what they're saying is, there's a bit of shame there, that they want to show you, they want to prove to you, but actually they don't know how to express that. But I think most important as a parent, and let me just say, this is a big thing for me, there is no such thing as a perfect parent. No, I've got 20 years experience in this field, and I'm not a perfect parent. Nobody is a perfect parent, because we don't get manuals, and nobody teaches us this. And I think for me, the best parents are those who go in, do you know what, I'm struggling, I need some help. And those who reach out, they're the ones who are doing well. It's not the ones who go, oh yeah, everything's perfect, they've got this Instagram lifestyle. It's about going, I've messed up here, what do I do? And we can always change it, no matter what. You shout at the kids, you model what you do. If you shout at the kids, and don't get me wrong, we all do that. We all get to a point where we're either grumpy with them or we withdraw from them. So model what the right thing is to do, because then they will model that. So apologize. But anyway, going off the point. So for me, I think the thing about homework and the thing about this home learning at the moment is it brings up all those insecurities that we had as kids, whether it's to be perfect, whether it is you've got to get a certain grade, the feelings around how you interacted with your peers at school come up. We might not realize it, but when your child has got something in front of them and they go, I can't do it, everything in your subconscious is going, well, I can't do it, and you can, you can, and you could work it out, and things like that. But I think what we're doing is we're struggling with the thought that they've got to get this work done, and actually they haven't. They're not going to get behind. Nobody's going to get behind. And I had a mum the other day.
Ashley, I'm like, right, go on, reassure me, Ashley.
Yes, right. Yeah, reassure me, because everything in you is Kate, am I wrong when you say that? I say to you, they're not going to get behind. You're thinking like, oh my God, but what if they do?
I'll tell you exactly what I think with my two girls. I think you're right. Annabelle's fine. That's what. And people with two children, and especially the second child thing, but will go, yeah, but Poppy, we're writing. That's all I think. I just think a writing.
Yeah, a writing.
Reading on Facebook, and I'm like, you're reading fluently, and like the Skittles come in handy to maybe get you to do something like that, but really.
And you know what? But we're not. Put it this way. Would you rather, now don't get me wrong, reading, even though I'm going, oh, the education system's outdated, of course, reading, writing, arithmetic is the ones, but it should be reading, writing, arithmetic, resilience, full stop for me. That's the 4 hours it should be, right? I know one of them's A, I'm not daft, but still. Anyway, but for me, it's about, yes, of course, we want them to do that. But if we teach them resilience, if we teach them that not giving up, then they will tackle the reading. They will tackle anything that they get thrown in life. Yeah. Does that make sense? And I think us as parents, we're so paranoid about our experience, which, let's face it, the parents that I speak to, I always say, how was your school experience? Put your hand up if you had a good school experience. And they go, well, some of it, but the majority of it wasn't that good. And it's a teacher that can be outstanding, that makes a whole difference. But unfortunately, because of the way the system's set up, we've not always got those outstanding teachers, not because they're not there, but because they're so bloody tired most of the time, So as parents, we need to let go of the fact that we're not teachers, because we're not. And we need to let go of the fact that they need to complete this piece of work, because they don't, and you can speak to all the teachers. Because what's going to happen in September, whether we go back next week, I know some people are going back next week, some people are going in the next few weeks. It looks like all the chatter is that there'll be no high school back before September. Possibly year 10 might go back, depends. They want to get the rest of primary by the end of June. That's a very big ask. that's doubtful, and parents will have the choice of whether to do that or not.
Mm.
But come September, when hopefully we're all back, all the kids are back as usual, then the first few months, the first 3 months to Christmas is going to be catch up. It's going to be catch up.
Yeah.
And really, is it important that our child is top of the class? No, it isn't. Like, let's be realistic. It's lovely to come home with a little certificate or, wow whale or a teacher's award, but it's more important that you're going to give them life skills. So I've kind of done like a little 5-step thing that when you've got something, when you've got a piece of work, so say it's reading, say it's maths, just for a little tip on the reading, audiobooks in the background all the time. You get in the car, put an audiobook on. You've got them in the garden, put an audiobook, and you think they're not listening, but they are, and they will pick up those words, the spelling and stuff like that. It'll come, don't worry. But audiobooks is amazing.
That's reassuring because they both go to sleep with audiobooks on. They both want, so like we do. Okay. I feel like a parent thing, Ashley. I feel like maybe I've picked that box just with the audiobooks. Don't know about you.
Yeah, there you go. See, there you go. So, and actually, it's really funny. Even if the baking and stuff, just have some on in the background. I went to, I took my nephew and my kids to the Brighton beach yesterday, New Brighton, that is, not Brighton down south. And I mean, it was empty, but we listened to an audiobook all the way there and all the way back.
That's
and I didn't get asked for a snack once. Rare day that I don't get asked for a snack within a 30-minute period. And actually, at one point, my nephew, who's the youngest and struggles with reading and writing and stuff, said, shall we play this game? I went, no, we're listening to the book. And he did. And I was a bit gobsmacked myself, but he did, because it was interesting, because somebody else is reading it, because they're doing the old dramatic voices and stuff. So audiobooks are the way to go, for sure. So think about yourself. Instead of thinking about a teacher, think about you're like a resilience coach, right? Okay. Doesn't take a huge amount to do this. I've got kind of 5 steps. So one of them, so say they've got a piece of work they're really struggling with, and they're kicking off about it, or they're having a bit of a meltdown.
Writing a letter to a family member. That's
exactly usually... yeah. Okay. So so for instance, acknowledge that it's tricky. Acknowledge this is hard work and it's tricky. Acknowledge, that's the first step. All right. Second step, model it. So model what you want to see. Don't get yourself worked up, because even though it's so easy to get worked up, you want them to you want them to do it, and you want it to be all nice, and so you feel yourself like getting all worked up, but don't, because do you know what, is it the end of the world if they don't finish it? Maybe they could finish it later. They don't have to do it all at once for a start, but also, like, just take you out of it right now. Big breaths, making sure your breathing is calm, because we know kids notice stuff subconsciously when our breathing changes, because that's when we're getting worked up, and they notice that. So make sure your breathing is calm. Plus, innately, they'll copy. They actually copy your breathing, kids. They model it. So second, at first, acknowledge it's tricky. Then second, make sure you're modeling that calm behavior that you want to see off them. Okay. And then refer to that voice. We all have that voice. I can't do it. Yeah, we all have that voice in our head, and kids have it, loud and clear. So, and acknowledge that. Oh, I guess right now that you're thinking, oh, I can't do this, or this is too hard. Acknowledge that. Talk it. Say it out loud, and they'll be like, oh, what can you hear in my head? My kids think I can read their mind all the time. So, but of course, because we all have that. All right. So that's the third one. Refer to that voice. Yeah. And I sometimes call that like the mean girl or the mean boy, because why would you want to stop yourself doing that? Okay. So then 4, look for, and I call it the resilient kid voice, because why not? Branding and all that, Kate. Look at that resilient kid voice. So it's there, but it's very, very quiet. So let's give it a voice, right? So that could be keep trying. So let's say this out loud, because actually quantum physics say that if you say stuff out loud, it commands the body and then the brain. So it's like a twofold thing. So say it out loud, I can do this. And if but I can't, hold on a minute. So you're going to let your brain, you're going to get that mean girl, that mean voice take over, or are we going to do this resilient kid? Okay, I love it. She's taking notes.
I am.
Okay. So keep trying. And then the fifth one is, and this is what kind of made me think of it when you said at businesses, look back and where you've been. So remind them of a time that they did do something that was hard. So it could be like, I know shoelaces are a big thing, but once you've got them, you're so stoked that you can tie a shoelace, and then afterwards you kind of forget and you just take for granted that you can do it. It's no different if we're learning to drive a car. It's no different if we're learning to ride a bike, you know. So it could be, well, maybe you couldn't do that before, but now look how easy it is. You do it automatically, you know. So remind them of that. So, but that's because the resilient kid voice won. Yeah, because we were
in the brand
loud voice.
So loving like the tips, yes, love the tips. The marketeer in me also loving the introduction of the branded voice within my child's head.
Well, just to let you know, every child, their inner voice until they're older is their mums and dads. Usually the mums, if I'm honest, because they usually have more input, but they're primary carers. Their inner voice, that voice that we all hear, it's yours for your kids. So be very careful in the words that we use. And that's not like, oh, you know, just if you have made a mistake with the kids, because we do it, you know, often daily, then make sure they hear that backup voice. I'm really sorry. I'm a bit stressed today. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to shout then. Okay. Big hugs, hug it out, gone, done, over. And that's, you know, because you're teaching the mechanisms and stuff like the homeworks. Don't see it as a battle, see it as an opportunity to teach them about resilience. All right. And there's lots of things about where you can, you know, that point where you're going, keep trying, get them like, so I have a 10 and a 12-year-old, and the 10-year-old would be not as confident. The 12-year-old, oh my God, created a monster. She can do anything. She's got a business, she's got a magazine going out next week, you know, blah, blah, blah. And sometimes I have to pull her back and go, you know what, just chill out, you're 12 years old, like you know, give yourself a break. But she is the perfectionist. And I have to say, no, that's not happening. Mm-hmm. She's the one who gets the work set on a Monday and does it all by Wednesday, so she can have Thursday, Friday off. And I've kind of banned any work during this half term. The younger one, he's very laid back. He would struggle with his confidence a little bit more. And what he does, so in that 5-step tips that we just did, when I say look for the resilient kid voice every day, the first, like when I'm chatting to him, I'll say, what is it today? Like, and I'll give him like, he'll come up with a positive affirmation. So giving a voice to that resilient kid little voice, just making it louder every day. And his is at the moment is, I believe in me. And it's like, how lovely is that a kid will do that? And so, you know, he writes that out every day, just that one sentence. And he'll have it like stuck under his bunk bed. He'll just have it on the side. And it's just that, oh yeah. And all you're doing is giving that resilient kid voice a louder voice than the mean one that says, I can't do this, because guess what? You bloody can. And you've done it before and you'll do it again. So it's just really giving that like a really, you know, a louder voice.
I love that. I really, really love that. I really like the tangible. I think some of the stuff that you've said, I can go right on a really, really good day when I'm in a great space. I'll do pretty much all of that. I feel like,
of course you will. When you're 100%.
Yeah, exactly. But I like the tangible kind of, what is it today? And that I believe in me, or that sentence, because Poppy talks to herself a lot. She has an amazing imagination. She will play for hours. She can go off. We've talked a bit about Poppy before. But excellent steps. Loving the branding, Ashley, the resilient kid. Let's work that branded voice in. We know that's going to appeal to me and tick a box for me as well.
Yeah.
And the I believe in me. Ashley Costello, we have maximum 10 minutes left, because on the subject of shifts and rotas for office space, for this, you don't want to sit that in bed. So What are the last few things that you want to cover off, you want to talk about, or you think that we should know or do?
Okay, so one thing that I would say, and this is a bigger thing, and I've got a couple of videos in my group to explain it for parents, but also for kids. So you can show one of the videos to the kids, because I was talking about their brain. We're the only species that can study our own brain, so why would we not and use that? And all I've done is, when I'm giving you those tips and tricks about the mean voice and the resilient kid voice, is because we have those parts of our brain, and so recognizing them. So if you think of the brain as in cut in two halves, we have our thinking part, which is kind of our prefrontal cortex here, won't test you on that, and then we have our feeling part, which is our fight and flight, our amygdala, our fight and flight part. Now, our amygdala is a doer. It's not a thinker. You know, it's bang, it's out there. With the kids, I talk about this as your guard dog. Okay. So it protects us when we're threatened. Now, that threat can be something like, you need to come off the iPad now. Now, you and I know that's a very reasonable request, but the brain's going, I don't want that. You know, and the fight and flight will just go, will absolutely go. Okay. Yeah. So with the thinking part of our brain, it's where we problem solve, it's where we pay attention from, it's our calming strategies, it's our decision making, it's very much our leader, you know, like a wise old owl, I would talk to the kids. Now, when we are under threat, and particularly as children, our brain is trying to keep us safe constantly. It's constantly trying to keep us safe, but there's times, like when mum says get off the iPad, that is perceived as a threat, and we need to retrain that. We have to retrain that part and go, I am safe, it's just mum, and actually I've been on it like 2 hours, I need to get off now. So the way it reacts is kind of fight, flight, or freeze, and we see them like fighting would be yelling, fighting, screaming, saying no to a parent. Flight would be lying, you know, ignoring, hiding away, running away. And then freeze would, when they just stand, you know, they just stand still and burst out crying. So they're the kind of reactions we get. Okay, but what we need to do is teach our kids that sometimes our brain reads it wrong, reads the situation wrong. You know, just like you might go in to a room and crack a joke, and actually you don't realize there's something else going on. And actually, you know, we get it wrong. Our brain gets it wrong. So it's really important that we take charge of our brain. All right. And there's a few different ways that we can do it. Our left side of our brain is all about the language, and right side is all about our feelings. We need to, because they send messages, just like our thinking part and our feeling part can send messages to each other, and the messages travel. If you imagine walking across a lawn, you might see the footprints for a little bit, but then they'll fade. But the more you walk off, and you see it, don't you? Like if you're walking somewhere and across the grass, there's the big muddy patch because people haven't walked all the way around, they've done the shortcut. That's the same in our brains. The neurons that are firing in our brains and neural pathways, the more we practice, the more they'll get deeper and they'll stay, just like 1066 before. The more you've practiced, it comes. So it's really brilliant if we can do stuff to strengthen the communication between those two, but also the communication between our language and our feelings. Because once our language part of our brain understands our feelings are getting these big emotions, and we might be angry, we might be upset. Sometimes it's because we're hungry, or we're too hot, or we're too cold, or we're embarrassed. That is the kind of things that really set off a situation, you know, where we're triggered. So for me, there's things that we can do. One, recognize it, teach our kids about our brains. Two, we can cause this interaction, or what we call in neuroscience integration between the two hemispheres. So for instance, you right-handed or left-handed, Kate?
Right-handed.
Right-handed. Okay. So if I was to say pick up your toothbrush, you'd pick it up in your right hand, yeah? Yeah. So if you brush your teeth with your left hand, what you're doing is crossing over those two parts of the brain. Okay. So if you skip with your right foot or play football with your right foot, try it with your left foot. Anything that you can do opposite really strengthens that integration between those two parts of the brain. So the messages between our language, how we express ourselves, and messages about these big feelings that we're feeling, that gets stronger and easier. So we're more likely to be able to express it rather than just having a meltdown. Does that make sense?
Oh, more than you know, actually.
So there's lots of things that we can do to really help. Now, I always think the integration is amazing, all right? And that's something that we can just do really easily, right? So we can do the integration quite easily. But what we want to do is build in like a little bit of a gap between when we're triggered, so our feeling part of our brain, that fight and flight, if we can build in a little gap before the reaction that we get, because quite often, then so things like being mindful, positive affirmations that we were talking about, being grateful as well. And there's a lot of, I only recommend stuff that has got scientific evidence, and I mean proven time after time, not just like a whim. So all of these have got scientific backup. Now, have we got 2 minutes, and have you got sweets with you?
I do. I have both of those things, time and sweet.
Right. So get a sweet out of your jar.
This giant jar of sweets making me feel like I'm a Kardashian, by the way. It's as close. I don't know whether the Kardashians. I'm getting a colour purple.
You could use fruit, like you could use a banana, but let's use sweets because it's an easy one and it's an easy buy-in from kids. All right. So what I want you to do is, and this is all about being mindful. So you can do this anytime, and I'll talk about it. But this is how we do it, and it's a really good little trick to do with the kids. So I'm trying to move my hand. Right. So pop it on your hand for me.
There.
On your palm. That's it. Right. So I want you to have a look at it now. All right. So look at it. Have a look at what color. Seriously. Like one job. One job.
Okay. Here's the skittle, purple skittle.
Yeah, right. So that's it. So have a look at it. Don't look at me now. Look at that. So you've got purple skittle. Have a look at. Can you see I can see like a little bit of light. Yeah. So just concentrate on your skittle right now. See if there's anything else that you can see. Yeah. You're just
there. I just dropped it.
It's okay. There's a hair on it. Well, you better get another one then.
Have I got to eat it? I'm going to eat it. Okay. Yeah, I've got it.
Honestly, one job. Right. Okay. So is it red? Yeah. Okay. Red. So have a look at it. In your mind, you're recognizing it. So you know it's red. There might be light shining off it. You can see the shape of it. You can see the color of it. Perfect. Turn it over. Things like that. Right. Now what I want you to do is I want you to lift it up to your nose and smell it. Now, I do a lot of this with either like strawberries or I do a lot with chocolate buttons, all right, with kids. And when you smell it, is that like you're probably not that keen on Skittles. Chocolate's nicer to do it with. But when you smell it, like anybody who's smelling chocolate, you know that smell already. You know, your brain is recognizing it. So again, wow. Okay. Right now, what I want you to do is to put it to your ear.
I think this going as officially the weirdest thing I've ever done on camera, and there's a lot of them.
I doubt it. So if it could talk to you now, what would it say?
I would just talk to it. Would probably say, "Eat me. I'm sweet."
Would it?
No.
So a Skittle would say no. It'd probably say, "Don't eat me," wouldn't it? Everybody says that. Everybody goes, "Eat me." So no, it probably doesn't. It probably says, "Don't eat me." But what we're going to do is so there we're connecting in with all our senses. We've looked at it, we've smelled it, we're listening. So now you're going to put it in your mouth. I'll let you close your mouth because we're on camera, but don't bite it. Okay? Do you not like Skittles?
Yeah, it's just 10 o'clock in the morning.
I know. Same. My teeth would be going like that now if it was me. So just hold it in your mouth. Don't bite it. Just hold it. And notice how all your taste buds and everything are now starting to be awake, because all of a sudden it is like, Kate, it's 10 o'clock in the morning. What you doing? You know, so it's really waking up. So you can eat that now. You can eat that while I tell you why we do this. So what we're doing is we're being mindful, because there's a lot of chat around mindfulness, but actually the studies are really strong on this, really strong. And what we're doing is we're building in, the more mindful we are about stuff, the bigger that gap we're building in when we feel under threat, when our fight and flight center is triggered, or our guard dog for the kids, no matter what it is, you know, and that is inbuilt system to keep us safe. It'll stop us getting run over. It will, you know, it'll stop us being attacked, things like that. So it's a brilliant system, but we need to refine the training with it. So with this, what it's doing is it's building in that gap between the trigger and how we react. And often with children, they're reacting to us. You know, they're reacting to either something that we've asked them to do, or the way that they're feeling, like a big emotion. And so we need to build in that little bit before it blows up, because we see this in toddlers, we see it in kids, we see it in teens, and we see it in adults. You know, if you've been put up in the car, it's a bang. So the one thing that I would say to any parent is, if your kid is having one of those big emotions, or a partner, irrespective of age, do not try and have a rational conversation, because at that point we flip our lid, and the you know, I use this as like a little hand model of the brain, but we flipped our lid. You know yourself, if you're ever in that red mist type of feeling of those big emotions, there is no reasoning with you. If somebody says to you, calm down, God, it takes everything not to punch them, doesn't it, at that point? And that's how kids feel at that time. So don't try and rationalize with them. Don't try and go, oh, but she didn't mean it, or it was just this, or, you know, stop it, or calm down. Let them calm down and then have those conversations. You know, sometimes that's a scoop them up and hold them and say nothing, you know, because they react very well innately to our nervous system, so they'll calm down innately. But some kids don't like to be like scooped up, they want to be left alone. And so don't be like, oh, go to your room, you know, and abandon it, but just, okay, I'm going to give you 5 minutes to calm down, I'm going to walk away, when I come back, let's have a chat about this. And I'm not saying if they've hit somebody they get away with it, but don't try and discipline them when they're in that red mist, because you and I both know that red mist, nobody's going to get to you. So let it calm down. And stuff doing like this with mindfulness really, really helps build that gap, so they're not likely, you know, they're less likely to react in such a big way where they're having a meltdown.
I can, you know, everything you're talking about, you know, echoes conversations that have been had in this house, and certainly around
and every parent in the world, love.
I know, but you know what I think, like I get clients saying to me, could you just come and run my business for me for a bit? Could you just come and do it? Could you actually just come and parent? For 8 weeks? Because you know, you can see where Super Nanny came from. You can, you know,
Totally.
I think it's incredible. Every time we speak generally about business or whatever, but certainly on this subject, because it's very close to my heart with the conversations I have with Poppy, and certainly the emotional flare-ups and how you deal with that in that moment, or not, you know, the way you deal with it, not necessarily the tackling it head on, but the strategies you put in place. Is I'm gonna definitely record this, download it, put it on YouTube, and maybe share it in some
Yeah, I mean, there's loads of things, and for me, resilience is about, you know, to kind of just round off, resilience for me is teaching the kids that there is going to be things that happen to them, giving them the coping strategies in the first place, so that they can fall back. That's their default setting, to have a coping strategy, you know, and more than one, like a little toolbox of them, you know, to give them now, because we're all going to get angry, we're all going to get upset, you know, we're all, just like you said, we're all going to suffer from death, you know, a death in the family at some point, even if it's just a goldfish, you know. But to give them that toolbox so that they've got something to rely on, but equally to help just weather that storm, you know, because life throws this. Nobody this time last year would have predicted we'd all be sat at home homeschooling for 3 months, like, get a grip, you know. But there is certain kids that will be better and cope better than others, and often that comes because of the coping strategies or the resilience of the parents, you know. But that's not saying that the others are doing a bad job. We're not, because we're all learning as we go. We're absolutely all learning as we go. But to just give them a little bit of, you know, coping strategies in place. There's loads that you can do. I mean, that one is, I always do that like chocolate one with the kids because it's a good buy-in from them, you know. It's a really good buy-in. They enjoy it. It's chocolate.
Yeah, I was going to say, you know, I can already feel that the girls will enjoy that. And like you say, like you kind of said a bit earlier on, what they actually want is that time and attention with you. And actually, if that showing them a piece of chocolate or talking about the texture of a banana and smelling of a banana, a strawberry, whatever, is more time with you. It's doing something with them that's interesting, and just it's creating that bit of a gap.
You think about if you think about like the first spoonful of, you know, the first spoonful of whatever you're eating, make that a mindful one. The rest of it you might throw your neck, but you know, there's things like that. I have a bit of a golden rule in any of my workshops, is if you spend 10 minutes every day with your child one-on-one, where it's no rules, like they get, so whether it's pillow fights, jumping on the bed, whatever, but only for 10 minutes, set a timer, no longer than that, you are filling their attention bucket. You're more likely to get time to yourself later on, and we all need it. Parents need it now. We've got no headspace, have we? So, you know, give them that 10 minutes. Something like this is a perfect little example. It's giving them that, you know, widening that gap for them as well.
Yeah. Oh my God, I'm exhausted. Like therapy. I mean, the breadth of subject, you know, you could, in a really positive way, talk forever. Your experience just screams, and I love working with you on a business sense, and I love having these sorts of conversations. It kind of helps me personally with everything that the kind of challenges that we personally face a lot of the time, and this really helps. So thank you so much, and thank you also for being my first guinea pig on StreamYard.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. It was funny actually, because yesterday when you said 30 minutes, I was thinking 30 minutes. Wow, that's quite long, but we have actually been on for 50. But no, just before you all go, remember, nobody is a perfect parent. You're not their teacher. Don't try to be. And everybody will be in the same position. This is not your personal competition to get your kid at the top of the class. No. When we go back in September, they will have to redo a lot of stuff to make sure everybody's in the same space. So don't worry about it, you know, just use it as an opportunity to boost their resilient skills, because that will help them a lot further than the Battle of Hastings dates and that kind of rubbish.
Very true. Very true. Oh, thank you so much, Ashley. I'm going to put the lid on these Skittles now.
Yes, do.
And
them at this time of day.
Go and get in the hot tub with the kids, and they enjoy pushing me around it. You know, it makes me feel better.
Like it's a little spa day.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Ashley. And
you're welcome.
To download this, put it on YouTube, and I'll share that with you, Ashley, as well, so you can share it with your feed. But thank you to everybody. Thank you for the comment. Anybody that was watching on replay, thank you so much. And I will see you again very soon, Ashley.
All right. Take care. Take care, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.